have the bollocks.
Do you really want to go toe-to-toe with me on that?
You've completely, like, what are we doing here?
Levy isn't going anywhere.
It's all down to timing, isn't it?
Yes, good evening. Welcome back to the Spurs 5. No, the channel has not disbanded. No,
The gag is
not fallen out. No, whatever you're hearing out there in YouTube world, we are here. The show wasn't on last week. 3 of the 5 were on holiday. It was an international break, so please don't listen. We are here. Guys, we're still a thing, right? The Spurs 5 isn't going anywhere?
Absolutely.
We're all here. Lubo's on remand at the moment, as you can see from his prison cell.
I've just seen that we're seen that the Spurs 5 lasted 2 months. I don't know what happened. Anyway.
Yeah, this is the farewell show. This is our last show, guys. Thanks for watching. This is it. Bye bye.
Actually, Lubo looks like he's on the shitter.
Oh, dearie me. So we've got
Lubo, do some tissues.
Johnny is live from Cyprus. Lubo is live from New York. And Sava, Sean and Stel are live from their abodes, I believe, in the United Kingdom. So apologies that there were no shows last week, but we're back this week. We've got a lot to talk about. Guys, we are going to talk about the following things tonight. We're going to talk about the ENIC cash injection. We're going to talk about Randal Kolo Muani. He's back, apparently, playing behind closed doors games. Is he going to be fit? Is he going to be our number one? How good is he? We're going to be talking about that. Vicario. He seems to be a hot topic in the last couple of weeks or months in the Spurs fan base. We're going to be talking about how good is Vicario. Does he need to be replaced? Is he harshly treated? We'll have a little look at the international roundup from all of our players that are playing so that Sean and Johnny can wax lyrical about Odegaard scoring a brace tonight for the French under-21. That's why they've slipped in that topic. And Aston Villa at home. We will touch upon that, but more of that on Thursday. Let me start, Stel. Let me start with you. Your favourite people in the world, ENIC, have stuck £100 million in, and we're being told that this is just the start of money that's being pumped into the club. What's going on? Are the ENIC kids changing things? And is this a reason for Spurs fans to be hopeful rather than excited? A bit of word I use.
Well, good evening, everyone. Big up the chat. Smash a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. I'm jealous of Johnny, still in Cyprus. I wish I was still there. I'll tell you that. I've come back to the cold and the rain. ENIC. We don't know what the £100 million is for, right? If they said it's a war chest for transfers and player wages, you might begin to get a bit excited, but I doubt it will be. I'm sure they've got to build that hotel and all the luxury flats behind it and any other projects they've committed to. So I don't know if the 100 million's for players. Also, without sounding greedy, 100 million doesn't really do what we need. We need a lot more than that. So, I mean, if it gets us 2 £50 million players, another 2 Mohamed Kuduses, then great, brilliant. That's superb. But we need more. So I think for me, now that Levy's gone and they've got a couple of new faces on the board, we need to give it 2-3 years to really understand the direction and to understand if they're going to stick with the manager and to see where this money goes and what other money that comes into the club, how much more money comes in or how much doesn't, before I can really assess it. So for me, Sava, 100 million, yeah, it's a bit of a headline, isn't it? It's a nice PR grab at the moment.
Sean, a PR grab, 100 million, not actually that much in football terms. Are we all? I mean, it's 100 million more than the day before. What are you making of the announcement?
It feels like it was. It's been in the zeitgeist for a couple of months, right? We were kind of hearing about there was going to be this 100 million. The other payday loan thing, I didn't sort of give any credit to them for. Pardon the pun. The reality is that that's just literally borrowing now, robbing Peter to pay Paul. This one, look, a step in the right direction. I'm very skeptical at the moment with regards to this ownership. I think that Stell is in the right line of thinking with myself there as well with regards PR. There's a rebrand. There's a bit of a lipstick on a pig thing going on. However, the proof is in the pudding. And the most positive thing out of that particular statement was the word initial in the title, and all of the noise has come out since that's saying that that the club are willing to drop more in, that there's more behind it. They're going to figure out what they need to make the club successful or whatever. But let's be honest, 100 million quid. First and foremost, we don't know what it's for. Second of all, there's a lot of other infrastructure projects that are going on. We know that that needs to be funded. And if that's not going to be funded by ENIC, then who's it going to be funded by? If it's going to be funded by debt, that's... and I was crunching the numbers earlier, by the way. Things like the hotel, the payoff on the hotel really isn't that staggering. If it costs 100 million quid, circa 100 to 150 million pounds to build it, put aside all the other parts of that phase 3, when you look at the numbers of how many rooms there are, the average price of a sort of semi-luxury hotel in Tottenham, what it could get at 80% occupancy, the sort of revenues it can generate, you're looking at about 20 million in revenue a year from it, which in hotels, the profit margins on it are relatively tight. So it's not like a needle mover either, even though I know it has to be there for other reasons for the Euro at the stadium and stuff. So when you're starting to put it all together in like a into the grand scheme of things, look, it all depends on what the money's there for. For me, if it's the first of another 200 million quid that will be with us before next summer, then great, right? Because I don't expect us to have a blowout January anyway. January windows are always more difficult. If you expect to sign 6 players in the summer, you expect to sign 2 in January, you usually get less than that. You usually get 4 or 5 in the summer and 1, maybe 2 at a push in January. It depends who you get, how easy they're to go after, and how much of that money's there for. For me, though, like I say, I'm going to wait and see. As long as there is more behind it, if it's just 100 million and it's to let them eat cake thing, then it's very underwhelming. And I don't think that much has changed from regards the father to the children. Like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But we shall see. We shall see. It's positive, like you say, Savo. It's better than not having it. Is it enough to make us competitive this season? I don't think so. But if this has more behind it, then maybe next season we can be challenging a little bit more closer to the top.
Lupo, the 100 million. It's interesting, right? Some people are going, oh, 100 million. Other people are going, oh, it's not a lot. Were you expecting this announcement? Is it as newsworthy as we're giving it, or is this just a thing that companies do?
I think it's what companies do. I think they were going to spend there was a share rights issue, wasn't there, for 150 million pounds the other year, of which they spent 97. So you've got 53 here that's been moved along, plus another 47, and that gives you the hundreds. My shares have been diluted a little bit more. That for me, that's all there is in terms of the hotel. For the hotel to work, geez, it's going to take about 30 years, I reckon, unless they can regenerate the area very, very quickly. For me, it's going to be a bit of a white elephant. Apart from tourists coming in for a few, maybe 30 or 40 events a year, I don't see how they're going to get anywhere near 80% occupancy. To be fair, it's going to cost them a fortune.
So are you thinking this money then is mainly for the hotel? Is that what we're saying?
No.
Just that the hotel has to be funded as well, and it has to be funded very quickly because it's like they've only got 2 seasons before the Euros, and it has to be ready before the Euros. It's going to cost 130 million quid to get that hotel built.
Is this not something they could do in partnership with a Hilton, for argument's sake? Just throwing one name out. With the 100 million going to football.
Yeah, but can I just say, Lubo, just for FYI, the Tavistock Group are in the hotel business. Okay, They built hotels in the Bahamas. So hence the reason why they can probably fund it somehow or other through the Tavistock Group, maybe a loan from the Tavistock Group property company to ENIC or in a JV, but they have definitely built hotel complexes out in America in partnership. So it's very possible that they could do that. But look, there's no doubt about it. Sean and I have spoken about it till we're blue in the face for months now. The 3 projects, the capital-intensive projects, the hotel, as Sean says, needs to be ready by 2028 to comply with the European Championships and holding it there. And that is an open-ended checkbook because it depends on the level of sophistication and luxury of the hotel. Some would say, well, should it be Premier Inn level because it's only at Tottenham? But if you're trying to attract people to come to a corporate event, don't forget Spurs hold corporate events every single day of the week during the week out with the football. So I would say it's medium to luxury end of the market. So that's going to put the price up. Then you've got White Webs, which is a big development. And then you've got the housing development over the road, which could be, again, separate. But I think we have to keep the money for the football completely separate. And I think what this basically does is it eases the cash flow of the club. If you couple this with the payday loan that they've taken against next year's earnings, or this year's earnings, should I say, in advance, I think that eases up the cash flow, which might have been a bit tricky, as Sean has said before, because we owe around about 250 million or more in transfer fees. Is that right, Sean? I'm trying to remember the number now. It's around
well, that was as of the last accounts we saw.
Yeah.
The other thing, don't forget, and I'll shout Connor out on this one because he brought this to my attention 6 months ago and I wasn't aware. The football club, Johnny, you're right in saying that the football club should be entirely separate from these things, but it isn't. Because ENIC took 90 million quid out of the football club over the last 3 years to buy that plot of land and for the machinery and all that stuff that goes into those developments. So in essence, that £100 million that's come into the club is just replacing what they took out of the club to build hotels that are not really going to move the needle. As I said, when you crunch the numbers, and Luba, I'll take your point that 80% occupancy might be a stretch in Tottenham. I'm just saying that the general rule of thumb is that hotels try to get 80% occupancy for 365 days a year. And if it's going to be semi-luxury and the average price room would be about 200 quid, something like that on average, and then you get about 40% additional revenue from hotel, bar, sales, restaurant, all that hospitality stuff, then the revenue that the hotel will make is about 22 million quid, of which in hotels traditionally, according to what I've looked at, margins are about 25%, 20%. So you're looking at about 5, 6, 7 million pound profit per year. And that's before, if you have got debt that you've got to finance, that you've taken out to facilitate the process in the first place, all of that stuff has to get paid back, including the interest. So in terms of, is the hotel ever going to be a needle mover? Not for a long time. And on top of that, like with the money that that's being put in, is just repaying what's been taken out. So again, I go back to, when it comes to the Lewis children, especially when you consider, and I don't know whether the Brooklyn Eric deal was legit in the first place. He did put an expression of interest in. Obviously, we then found out that the geezer, was it Dan Gilbert, I think his name was, of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the basketball team. He was asked by the Telegraph whether or not he was part of the 12-man consortium, or his investment group, Rock Entertainment, was asked. And Rock Entertainment confirmed that they were they always look at domestic and international venues and properties in the sports field. And they did confirm that they recently looked at one in London, i.e. it must have been Tottenham or it might have been West Ham, outside chance, but probably Tottenham. And they walked away. On the basis of that might have been why Brooklyn Eric said he wasn't going to put up an offer. He might have just been being a tire kicker and pissing around. But if there was truth to the story that came from Martin Lipton in The Sun, and it obviously came to some degree to be true, but if the detail was true, that he had 1.2 billion quid's worth of capital to put into the football club as part of that overall takeover, then when you see that comparable, right, 100 million quid versus 12 times that from an NFL consortium, it at least gives you some basis of benchmark analysis to work with. And therefore, for me, like, when you put all that stuff together, I'm really not that plussed by the 100 million quid. I kind of feel like it's a stepping stone in the right direction, but it isn't really going to be a needle mover.
It's not for me. It's like it didn't even make me sit up and take notice. I've got to be honest with you. It was like a fly in the ointment. And I think that, though, the money that they took out to buy the white webs and thing, I think is right anyway, because it's going to be part and parcel of the club. The white webs development is going to drive revenue for the women's football team, which is doing very well, much better than it was last season under the Ho, not a Ho, the Ho. And also the fact that, you know, the American football, which they didn't talk about in their submission. Most of the submission for that project was all about the women's game to get it through planning. But you'll see soon enough that the NFL will come in there, and, you know, they needed the money. So I've got no problem with that, because I think that will be paid back many-fold over the next 5-6 years, you know, after the build. My concern is, you know, if the hotel and these projects don't eat into the cash flow that will drive the investment into the club. None of us have fooled enough to think that 100 million and the payday loan is going to change anything at the club. But they did say initial investment. Okay. If they said that was the main investment, right, I would have been throwing my toys out the pram. So let's wait and see what happens. January in the summer will tell us all we need to know, because right now talk is very cheap. Most people are happy that Daniel's left the building. You know, is it a wolf in sheep's clothing? I reckon the majority of the fan base right now would say the former, wolf in sheep's clothing. But if they have changed and this leopard has changed its spots, then we'll find out soon enough. But till then, we have to surmise and guess.
The other thing also, Johnny, so just to say that ENIC's got about 13 different companies, I think, and the majority on the property companies. And if my memory serves me correctly, in the last set of accounts, there was something like £374 million worth of cash spread across 7 or 8 of those companies.
No, that was misreported.
Yeah,
that company, Multi Club Insights, or MCO Insights, I think it was called, that presented themselves as an economic advisor to this, that, and the other, and a strategic consultant, and etc. They were just double stuffing the account, so they couldn't have been more wrong.
This is my problem with ENIC and Levy. Levy's gone, but ENIC is still here. This has been my biggest. It is an anger. I was going to say frustration, but it's an anger. They use the football club as a mechanism to cash flow money into infrastructure projects that doesn't benefit the first team the way we want to. It should benefit the first team, but it doesn't, because until we've got a team that resembles Poch's team, where we think we're going to win every game and we're going to play good football and we should be winning trophies, we're just having another conversation about the finances, the money, the movement of money, what are they going to do? And it just feels like we're going around in circles, but without Daniel Levy now. That's how it feels at the moment.
Do you know what it is, still? I think if it had just been Joe Lewis there and Daniel's gone and he's got Charrington on the board, he's got Vinay, then you're looking at it and you're thinking, do you know what? Nothing has changed. The hope that we've all got is that these kids have come in, they can see the potential. There's more interest from them than there was with the father in terms of footballing success. And I think that's the hope that all of us fans are hanging on to at the moment.
Yeah, but Lubo, until we see
sure
lots of decent level players come into this club on a regular basis, I'm not going to be convinced. I'm not going to be convinced at all.
I think the quality of player coming in during the summer was higher than it has been for some time.
That's why I said consistently. It's got to happen in January. It's got to happen next summer. It's got to happen January again next summer. All right, January, I don't expect loads of players, but in the summer, I expect 3-4 players every summer of Kudus level. I really do. Otherwise, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, still, you answered at the back end that I was going to say. Like, I do feel like it'll be very difficult to judge off the basis of 1 January because very much it's dependent on whether the other club wants to let their player go mid-season. So, for example, the one that everyone keeps talking about, you know how we only talk about one player at a time in this fan base. So, you know, like all summer it was Eze, right? Now, the only name I hear is Semenyo, right?
Who's not going to end up at Tottenham in the probability curve. He's wanted by 5 teams that are bigger draws than us.
Sure,
and all of them can make the argument that they need him just as much.
But my point on this was going to be, it's all well and good saying, well, let's go and prove what we're about in January and go and get, just using him for example, right? But if Bournemouth are sitting in a place where they're fighting for European football in January, are they going to want to turn around? Bearing in mind they're in absolutely no financial difficulties at all. They must be very rich at the moment. They've just sold Ouattara, Kirkes, Zabanyi, Hoyson, must be for 150, 160 million pounds.
For the new stadium.
Well, but they're not in difficulty, are they?
No.
So if anyone rocks up to them in January and goes, we'll give you 80 million, just ballpark for Semenyo, they're not in a position where they have to go, oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably they might be in a position where they go,
but the stadium build is a funny one.
But we won't listen to those offers in January when we're still in with a chance of qualifying.
Yeah, but Sava, do you know what it comes down to? I think it's the player. Like you look at Eze, he was playing under a good manager. He won the FA Cup, had a brilliant season, but yeah, he still went to Arsenal. Why? Because he knows he can go to that next level. And I think Semenyo knows at some point he has to go to that next level, whether it's Spurs or not.
January.
He's going to force the exit. Is my point. He's going to say, "Look, I don't want to be here."
I'd be surprised. I think it'd be one of those most drawn out from January the 1st until January the 31st. It will be one of those stories that gets dragged out. He might end up leaving. One thing that's in the favour of people that are looking at him, I think Johnny, you and I were talking about this the other day on the channel that shan't be named. Otherwise, we might wind up sell. But
say whatever you want, guys.
On FI. The reality is, Johnny, the European clubs, right, don't want to sell their best players in January because the vast majority of them haven't yet finished the European League.
Yeah, that's right.
And it kicks the can down the road. That's why 85% of the business that's done in January is done in the final days after the match day 8.
It's more.
Bournemouth haven't got that to worry about, have they? So
yeah,
but they're in a position. My point is, they're in the position, right, that if anyone rocks up, I'm just using figures. I don't know the answer, right? But someone could rock up and go 80 million. Bournemouth can turn around and go, we want 100. Now, forget what we think he's worth. Bournemouth as the selling club with no financial difficulties can go, all right, you can go, Semenyo, but somebody's got to pay.
Interesting to know, though, Saba, how much that stadium, because it's the most pathetic stadium upgrade I've ever seen, going from 14,000 to like 17.5.
Yeah, it's
a bit of a damp squib, right? It's a bit of a damp squib of a stadium upgrade, isn't it? But those things aren't cheap. Stadium upgrades are bloody expensive, aren't they? So you know.
But the thing is with this is before the new format, you could get a deal done in January for a top European club because the Champions League was done and dusted in December.
December 27th,
right? Now it's right at the end of January, right? Which is a fuck up, really, because now there's a week window. So if you do fail, you've got to wait for the team to fail in Europe to then maybe get your player.
Yeah,
and I think as of last January, which is the first sample size, the only sample size we have of the league format, the only team that was guaranteed qualification out of the Europa League was Lazio at that stage, going into the final 2 games, which happened in the final 2 weeks of January. And I think in the Champions League it was Liverpool. everybody else, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure everybody else still had the jeopardy of finishing outside the top 8 or outside the 24th downwards position.
I don't think Semenyo's going anywhere in January. That's my personal view. I don't think he's going anywhere in January.
I think we're. I don't know where this Semenyo link has come from, by the way. Like, I don't know whether it's a manufactured Spurs fan link. I think we'll probably go for more of your Fofana type link. I think that's probably where Spurs will go to, or maybe Kevin Schade and let that one sink in. But possibly Lookman on loan for 6 months or something. I don't know, but. To your point earlier, Sean, it is a difficult window to operate in. It's not impossible, but it is difficult, and especially with the prices now what they are. Let's see who's available. Let's see what Spurs are made of. But I'm not going to. Obviously, I want them to do some business in January, but I don't think we can all go right. Oh well, that January wasn't amazing. Nothing's changed. ENIC kids out. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we're going to need to be able to get through January and the summer to have that.
So no. Listen, I've been hearing ENIC out, Levy out for the last 3 years. If we don't, I expect the same energy to be applied from all the people that were Levy out and ENIC, the Lubos of this world, the Stells. If by January the 2nd we haven't spent 100 million quid, I expect Brian Daigle to set up a camp outside Hotspur Way. I want there to be the same energy. Otherwise, I'm calling them all having the wool pulled over their eyes by the bait and switch that is a PR campaign. And Lubo, you're number one on my priority list in that regard, bro. Consistency.
No, Sean, you're right. If ENIC don't make some signings this January, at least minimum one, and maybe a second on some kind of loan deal in areas we need, 100%, you're right. 100%. This team needs players in January. There's no doubt about it.
It's got to be a quality player. I don't want to see that Spurs are going and buying an 18-year-old from Iceland or something because we need a left wing.
Yeah, it's got to be a real.
I remember the uproar. I was speaking about this with Sean on the show that shouldn't be mentioned, but we spoke about the fact that the uproar in the fan base had a complete meltdown when, right the death, we signed Bentancur and Kulu, right? And everyone said, "Oh my God, what is going on? This club's finished." Yet those were that was probably the two best players we signed in the January transfer window for many, many, many years. And I think, to find those type of players to have that much of an effect on the rest of our season as it did that season will be a tough call. But, if we do, look, we are led to believe, according to Thomas Frank, that they're already having discussions in this international break, identifying the targets, and we shall see. Because we would like to see that some deal is reached out. They reach out to the camp of Ed players to find out whether there really is real interest. Number one, and whether the club is willing to sell. Because if we can get those deals done in early January, then, we could have a strong second half of the season.
Johnny, I think you're looking at players who are not getting in the first team, who want to go to America in the World Cup, and that are going to be desperate to play, desperate for game time. And that's where loans are going to come in.
Well, they were Lubo. Those were Juventus rejects, apparently.
Yeah.
Weren't they?
Well, they did. They helped turn that second half of the season around, and we finished fourth in the end, didn't we? So it was, it worked out very well. I think I think there'll be players there in January that Spurs can go for, purely because you got the World Cup factor.
Yeah, but does that mean is that maybe part of the rationale then why you would make the deal permanent for Polinia early, so that it frees up a loan space? Because the last thing you really want to do is go and sign a player who would come to you now purely because he's got 6 months before the World Cup. But ultimately, we've seen it before, right? With players that come with when they first come to the club, and not just at our club, but others as well. You think back to Adebayor, right? Who was so transparent with his capabilities, and they always came alive just at the time when there was a new contract around the corner. He earned himself a new contract and he put his feet up. And It's a double-edged sword. Looking at players that are, short-term ambitious, short-term desperate to play, want to force their, the mind of the manager for the international team, etc. But I don't know if you want to sign those guys on permanent deals if they're not perfect for your club anyway, and you're just looking at them because there's more of a motivation for them to leave the club where they're not quite getting the minutes. Then surely a loan deal is all you want them for in January.
Pretty much.
I think, let's be honest as well, any top club, they're not waiting until January to speak to players' agents, right? They'll be speaking to players' agents right now, aren't they? Saying, hey, we want your guy. What's the situation now? What's it going to most likely look like in January? Would he move? Does the World Cup have a factor? Are the club going to let him go? What are they going to... All of these different things will be talked about now, right? I know some people feel like you get to the 1st of January and then you start ringing agents, but it's all happening in the background right now. So I think it's going to be a very interesting January, but lots of people are ready and primed, aren't they? To right, come on, ENIC. You told us now we're going to be different. You want sporting success. You're turning down expressions of interest to buy the club. Well, show us why. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm going to do some super chats and then we'll move on if that's okay with everybody else.
Yep.
Just for anybody who wants to know, in the World Cup qualifiers right now, Wales are losing at half time, 2-1. They took the lead and they're now 2-1 down. Brennan Johnson was dropped for that game. Bergvall, Sweden are 1-0 down at home to Kosovo. Just so you know, if Kosovo win that game, I'm pretty sure it means that Sweden won't be at next year's World Cup. So that's a big 45 minutes of football coming up for Sweden.
Can you imagine? I mean, this is what we talk about. Having great players doesn't make a great team. It's how the team blend. When you look at the names on that team, Isak, Gyökeres, there's so many good players in that team that they should be doing far better. They should be doing as well as the game.
They're rock bottom. They haven't won a game yet. But if they lose this game, Kosovo are 6 points ahead of them with 2 games to go, a superior goal difference. So this is going to be interesting. Anyway, let's look at some of the super chats. By the way, you guys smash the like button, please. As we said, it will get busier as more football comes back, but there's just under 580 of you in here and 122 likes. That is really, really bad. Like we should be at 400 likes. So please, in the next 5 minutes, can we all start smashing that button? Really appreciated. Big up to Dean Law, always in here, smashing the super stickers, starting the choo-choo train. Big up to you, Dean. Really appreciate you, my man. Thank you very much. Big up to my mate Emma out there on Teesside. Said, evening, everyone. Evening to you, Emma. Hope you enjoyed your holiday you've just come back from. Everyone deserves a holiday, so hope you enjoyed it. Big up to David Crick as well, who said 100 million would get us a Locatelli, Fofana, Brandt, and Tony on loan in January. Just saying, add them 4 to the squad, and we are in a strong position. Yeah, maybe a couple of loans. Tony on loan seems to be one that's talked about a lot. We can go more into that on Thursday's show, but definitely a player I wouldn't mind saying no to. I think he's better than all of our strikers that we've got. But we're going to talk about one of our strikers now. Thank you, David. Really appreciate that. Guys, I want to talk about this guy. Now, there was a lot of fanfare when we got him on the last day of the window. It was like, oh, my God, we've got Muani. And, we've signed another brilliant player. He's been injured the whole time since. Played 11 minutes, 12 minutes against Villarreal, then has had the world's longest dead leg ever since then. But we do know that last week he played behind closed doors game against Watford, and he got 45 minutes into his legs. Guys, when are we expecting Muani to be fully fit? And are we expecting him to go straight into that 11 as the forward? And how good is he? Anyone can go.
For me, I mean, look, big long-term fan of his. I laughed when we were supposedly trying to sign him last January. I just thought there's absolutely no chance of us selling that story to him. Juventus or free fall Tottenham. But the truth of the matter is, he was very good for Juventus. He was very good in the Club World Cup. He wanted the move to Juventus. Sat around for something like 77 days or something like that, or it might even have been more. Not very professional. Should have been keeping himself fit. The deal didn't come off, and then Spurs nip in and get the deal. For me, he's nowhere near match fit, nowhere near it. No pre-season. That's a handicap. No pre-season, no full match fitness. Is he a good player? Yes. Is he better than Richarlison and Solanke? Yes. But I think people's expectations that he's going to just come in and actually be the man, I'm not sure myself. I'd like to have 70% of the guy that was at Eintracht Frankfurt, and the reason why PSG paid 95 million euros for him. But I think we have to curb our expectations of he's a name, he's a very good player, but come on, it's like expecting Kulu after an injury or a long time out not playing a game just to come back and suddenly hit the ground running. It ain't going to happen. It needs time. But I think that I would say that if he comes back against Villa as a sub, I'd like to think that by the end of November, mid-December, we start to see the real Kolo Muani play. But I'm not expecting fireworks to start with, even though I'm a big fan of the player.
Is he, just quickly before I move on, Johnny, in your opinion, is he the best striker at our club? Assuming everyone's fit, is he the best striker at our football club?
Yes. And the reason I say that is because he's the most mobile. He's the most mobile. And, you know, if we can play, you know, like on a counter-attack, breaking from defence, ball over the top, when you're playing with Xavi Simons and Kudos, and hopefully a much improving Wilson Odobert or Matthias Tell on the other side, I think he's exactly what we need. We don't need anyone to slow it down up front. So I believe he's the best of the three, personally.
Do you remember when we signed Muani? I said this is a risk. I think we're taking a risk here. So far, it's been a risk. It's not really worked, has it? And this injury thing. Yeah, I know he's got an injury, but
he wasn't fit. I mean, listen, look, you know football still, right? If you've not played any football and you've had no pre-season and you're 77 days in or 80 days in, you're not going to go onto the football pitch and play football, are you? You know that.
But then it's a risk to sign that player, isn't it? It's a risk to sign a player that isn't fit. And I just look. I hope he gets to a position where he can play 90 minutes of football and he can lead the line, because the current striking options at this club are diabolical by the standards we've been used to. If you think of the strikers we'd had the last 30, 40 years, what we're seeing now is nothing short of horrendous. They don't score. If it wasn't from defenders and an occasional midfielder scoring goals, we're just not scoring goals. The strikers don't do anything in this squad. So I want him to work because we need him to work. But this was a risk. I hope it pays off. I really do.
I think it's poor on Muani's part to turn up at the club overweight. He'd done nothing for 11 weeks. I mean, you know, and where are we now? We are middle of October. So he's been at the club a month and a half, and we've seen him on the pitch for just over 10 minutes. It's really poor. I don't see him, if he does get into his stride, maybe Christmas if we're lucky. It's going to be a while.
I've got to be honest. It gives me.
Sorry, Sean. Just quick. I just want to challenge you on that. Is it his fault though? Like, if he has had a dead leg for however long, and as Johnny said, if he, like, I think it was something, wasn't it, like 77, 78 days that he'd not played and trained. Can we really then blame the guy, or are we blaming, again, I know I'm not allowed to say this, you lot tell me off. Can we blame the recruitment team that we've waited all summer to bring in a forward, and the forward we bring in is someone that's had absolutely no pre-season, is injured?
Is it not fair to say that the concern for me is that he turned up out of condition rather than get it? You know, you pick up an injury in training, you get a dead leg, you're out for a few weeks. That happens, but he should have been in much better shape when he turned up at the club. Purely,
I don't understand this
right?
pre-season narrative. Like, he wasn't like he was out of work. He was employed by a football club throughout the summer. He didn't arrive injured. He got injured after that 10-minute spell when he looked like he was blowing chunks out of his arse after 30 seconds of running. I was turning around to the guy next to me in the stadium going, "Is that Kolo Muani? He's just come on." And his hands are on his knees and he's going like me after a power wank on a Friday night. You know? I don't know what we're doing.
I know, but the fact that you wanked yourself into a coma, Sean, has nothing to do with it. But look, I think the thing is with him.
What are we doing?
When you don't have any pre-season at all, right? Like Stell will tell you, right, or anyone who knows, no pre-season is going to set you back. You see it all the time. Top players, he's not the same. He didn't have his pre-season. People think that it's a minor thing. You just turn up. But look, the fact of the matter was he had a medical. And if there was major issues, they should have been flagged up in his bloody medical that he had a problem, and we shouldn't have signed him if that was the case.
But he wasn't injured though, Johnny. This is the thing. He came here. He just was out. He was out of
physical,
out of fitness. He got the dead leg happened like 5 weeks ago.
I know, but you still have a physical when you have the thing. So they would have been testing oxygen levels and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Well, true, but I'm guessing that aren't the physicals these days just to check that there's. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but aren't the physicals just checking that your heart works correctly and that you have all of the usual. That there's nothing that's flagging up with regards like like arrhythmia or whatever. I don't know. Listen, what I would say is to get back on the track of whether or not he'll be a good player. I think they've got a little bit of vibes of Gareth Bale when he came here for the second time. He took forever to get up to speed in the Mourinho system, but by the time he got on the pitch, he actually contributed quite a lot in the second half of that season and showed glimpses of where he was, of his sort of former self. But he hadn't played a lot of Real Madrid before he came to Tottenham, so I would hope it's the same thing. There's a very good player in there for sure, and we definitely need him. We definitely need him as soon as possible.
Sean, if Muani finishes up with the 18 goals that Bale got that year, I'll be delighted.
Mate, Gareth Bale was world class. He was an unbelievable football player. This is all because, yet again, we've waited until the last minute, the last day, to bring in a key player. We had all summer. We had from the end of May to bring in a player. We waited until the end of the month. The last minute, the last second. This is what you get. This is what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
It is down to recruitment. The recruitment team need to be held accountable again.
Well, listen. Luckily, that New England squad player Dane Scarlett didn't go out on loan.
Yeah, luckily.
By the way, he's got a promotion to the England team, the England training team, didn't they? Old Dane Scarlett, one of our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't see that one happening.
Oh. He needs to be given a chance. If we're gonna continue like this without Muani and Solanke, Scarlett needs to be given a chance. I don't understand it. How can it be worse? How can it be worse with him up front?
Than who?
Richarlison.
Oh yeah, Richarlison's. Well, Matisse Tell, my striker, my inside forward.
Look at Stell's face. I knew where Sean was going. I knew.
We hadn't had a chance to speak about that game. Did we do a show after the Leeds game? I don't think we did we?
No, we were busy disbanding the channel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We
were shutting down the channel. Yeah. Close it now.
So so Stell, like, are we gonna have a little, a couple of seconds to congratulate him hitting the crossbar with a well-timed header, playing on injured with a twisted ankle, but also scoring, the goal that got us in the front. A little bit of credit where it's due.
Well done after 10 games, hitting the crossbar and scoring a deflected goal. Brilliant. More.
You see, you
keep it going.
Away the goal. Why would you undermine it?
No, I'm not taking away the goal. It was a deflected goal. I mean, if you don't shoot, you don't score, right? I did a post-match video actually, and I said, if you don't shoot, you don't score. So I can't criticise him because he took a shot. But let's have it right. It was a deflected. That's not going top bins without that deflection.
Still going to go.
If he can do that, Sean, if he can do this now for a run of games, a good 2-3 months, then there's a conversation to be had. But how many times have we seen
backlift as well? Lovely little low backlift, Jermaine Defoe-esque with the low backlift there for that shot.
I mean, we're playing
against the mighty Estonia tonight. Matthias Tell got a goal and an assist. Right, what more could you ask for?
Well, yeah, against Leeds, Estonia, Burnley, I expect him to be brilliant. But when we have real football games, what does he do? Nothing.
There's a lot of players that are flat trap bullies, though, right?
You can't write him off at this stage. You can't write him off at this age. You just can't.
No, you really can. You really can. He's shit.
Oh, madness.
Madness. He's rubbish, man.
You would have written off Kevin De Bruyne, wouldn't you? You at his age, you would have written off Mo Salah. Mo Salah was still playing in Ball.
No,
we'd seen them because before they went to Chelsea. There's a difference. We knew they were playing.
They were binned by. They were binned by Chelsea.
They were decided not to deem
not good enough. Why?
They weren't good enough.
Hang on. No, hang on. You've got to remember.
Talent ID was to
hang on, you've got to remember that when everyone I'll be honest, I hate it when people say this. It's like I heard this for years whenever I talked about Sessegnon. Oh, you would have binned off Bale. And I'm like, who has ever watched Sessegnon and gone, wow. We saw Gareth Bale at Southampton as a youngster and went, yeah, you can play.
Semenyo at Newport County. Would you have written him off? Did you even know he had talent then?
Yeah, but Spurs, I wasn't asking Spurs to buy him when he was at Newport County.
That's the point. You know what I mean? That's not the point. The point is you're writing players off too young.
Hang on. When you say, but this is the problem. When we're saying writing players off, let's bring it back to a sensible starting point. The starting point is, are they good enough? And I think Stel might agree with me on this one. Are they good enough right now for the Spurs first team? That's where I'm starting.
Yeah, but they weren't intended to be, were they? They weren't intended to be starters. It's the same with a lot of the players that they get their chance. Sometimes they get shoehorned because of injuries. Would Matthias Tell be playing as striker if Solanke was fully fit?
No.
Would he be playing? Would Xavi Simons be at the club, or would he be on the left-hand side if James Maddison was fully fit? You're making the argument that they shouldn't be starting, but you're right. They probably shouldn't be starting, but they are starting because we've got chronic injuries to 3 or 4 different players in the same sort of positions.
Sure.
There's context.
Sure. Of course there's context, but the context is as well, is having seen enough of Tell over the years. But
you haven't seen enough of anyone at 20 years old, though, Sam. That's the point.
Hang on. Sure, hang on. You can't make my point for me. That's just not right. All right, let me get my point up. We've seen, believe it or not, there are other leagues other than the Premier League. We've seen him play for Bayern Munich. Right, I saw him play for Bayern Munich for 2 years. We've seen him play on loan at Spurs. Just for me personally, I don't look at him and go, you should have ever have been bought for Tottenham. Now, does that mean I'm writing him off for his career? No. But personally, he just isn't. He doesn't do anything for me personally. I don't think he's got a good touch. I don't think he's got good skill. I don't think he's got any strength. I don't think his IQ is there. For me, he will probably have a great career in football. But do I want him at Tottenham? Do I think he should be anywhere near our team? No.
But does that opinion that you formed of someone before their frontal court, he can't go to America. If he gets in the World Cup, he can't go to America and legally have a beer. And you've made that opinion of him before he's 21 years old. And you're saying that basically, and I'm worried now that opinion you formed is going to always jeopardize or sort of cannibalize a fair value if he improves.
No. When I see him improve, we can say, yeah, he's improving. I've not seen him improve at all. This is the problem. I've seen him now. I've seen him now on loan at Tottenham. I thought he did the square root of nothing, right? I've seen him this year in a Spurs shirt. Yeah, he scored his goal. Fair play. He did well, got it out his feet. And like Stel said, if you don't shoot, you don't score. I don't care, by the way, that his goal was deflected. When people use that to belittle somebody, listen, how many goals? Lampard talks about it all the time. How many goals did Frank Lampard get from having a shot? It's hit about 15 bodies and flown in. If you don't shoot, you don't score.
But he scored 20 goals a season. Yeah, so he kind of gets away with it.
No, I get it. But still, I'm backing you up here. My point here is I don't look at Tell and go, yeah, that for me is a Tottenham Hotspur footballer. I know some people are really offended by this. There's nothing about him that I go, yeah, I like watching Tell. That's just me personally. Doesn't mean he's going to have the worst career in the world. Doesn't mean he's the worst footballer I've ever seen. But I just go back.
I'm not asking you to see him through the same lens that other people who want to give him a bit more time do. I just worry that people that make their minds up on 20-year-olds then get embedded in opinions, and then they don't want to give any wiggle room. They want to downplay, like Stell, trying to diminish the strike by saying it was a deflected shot, right? If it was that big of a deflection that it wouldn't otherwise have gone in had it not been for the deflection, those things are called own goals. Like, I think that it gets to a point where people make their minds up early on players or on any particular concept, and then they get entrenched in an opinion, and then they don't want to.
Sure, but that's not happened yet, has it, Sean? That's not happened yet. We've seen
clearly been an improvement in the last couple of games.
Had that opinion, right? Sorry, Stell, talk about you like you're not here. If Stell had that opinion in 10 games' time, where Matisse Tell has gone and scored 6 goals in 10 Premier League games, then I would turn around and say, yeah, that Stell, come on, you've clearly got the agenda against this player. But I agree with Stell. For me, what I saw, he had 13 touches in the game, by the way, right? What I saw was, did well for the goal. No one's going to take that away. Good header, right? Other than that, I saw Matisse Tell that I normally see. Now that's. But you
take the same approach to Odebear that clearly had one of the better games on the park, and he did so much more. And your take on Odebear is similar to your take on Tell. You put them in the same bucket.
I think Odebear's a much better footballer than Tell. Let me put that out there right away. But it's again,
it's the first time I've heard you say that.
What? That he's much better than Tell.
It's the first time I've heard you ever. You've always.
Do you remember?
3 years ago, every Dyer and Ben Davies in the same bucket. I think you have to treat them as individuals, but people don't. People make out that Odebear and Tell are like.
Listen, those two aren't a package deal for me. I just don't rate either of them. Right now, my level of I look at Tell and go, yeah, you do nothing for me as a player. He does nothing for me. Right, Odebear, he's neat and tidy, but I've said this to you a million times. For what I like in a winger, he does none of the things that I like from a winger. He does. He never ever looks like he's going to actually threaten a fullback. He never looks like he's going to score a goal. And I can remember 1 or 2 assists since he joined a year and a half ago, right? So for me personally, it's not.
Was it against Villa? Was it against Villa?
West Ham
played last season though. He was injured for 8 months last season.
Mate, but then we can go back to Burnley. The guy is not a threatening winger, never has been. Now, if he develops that, then my mind can move with that. But at the moment, nothing's made me watch Odebear. If we're going to move to him, nothing's made me watch Odebear and go, cool, yeah, you're really good. I watch him and I go, okay, neat, tidy, a few passes.
Because he doesn't do what Kudus does with the ball, yeah?
No, because Kudus is a rare animal.
But hang on. It's not just about Kudus.
Kudus is a proper football player. That's what he is.
He's a rare animal, number 1 in Europe, mate.
Kudus isn't the only winger in the world, right?
No, I'm just saying, but it's a comparable because he plays for Tottenham.
Okay, comparable. Sure. He plays for Tottenham. Kudus threatens and scares the crap out of the other team. For me, Odebear, as I've said, if I'm a right back, I want to play against Odebear. If I'm a right back, that's a nice day for me playing against Odebear because he's not threatening. He does nice things.
But he enables you, Doggy, to have and Tottenham to have just as much access down our left-hand side as our right-hand side. In the absence of having that dual
winger, I need you to be threatening. I don't care.
Do you know what? Can I say one thing, right? The same people that say too quick to judge are the same people that moan about the quality of our front line. You can't have both worlds. When Richarlison scored those 2 brilliant goals against Burnley start of the season, everyone said, "Oh, look, he's back." I said, "No, shit. Burnley are crap." And well, a lot of people said it. And when he got the assist against Man City, I said, "Guys, we always beat Man City. We're getting carried away." Now look, reality's kicked in. He's shit. Tell cannot be judged off of. Okay, fine. You cannot judge Tell as being a really good player or, he's showing signs because he scored against an average football team. He's been at this club since January last year. He's coming up to 1 year at this club. He scored like 3 or 4 goals and 2 assists. What's he done?
there's massive context that you're leaving out of that whole
We
scenario.
spent £4 million on this guy, Sean.
That's not his fault, though, is it? That's like saying
It's
that
not
Florian
my fault either. It's not my fault either.
The players are. I can say it is your fault, right? But you're making the point about the price tag. The price tag is not the fault of the player. But you're also saying that
it's a waste of money.
You're undermining the contribution against Leeds because it's Leeds. Like somehow every Premier League game.
No, it's because it's rare. It's rare. It's rare for him to do anything half decent. It's very rare to see Tell score or hit a post.
So what team would he have to score about? What team would he have to score against in the Premier League?
He needs to do it consistent. He needs to do it consistently.
But you didn't make the point about consistency a minute ago. You made the point about the quality of the opposition.
Yeah, because he only does it when he does it, which is rare, against the weaker teams.
He does. Yeah,
Brennan Johnson, by the way, Brennan Johnson's got similar stats. If you look at his 20-odd goals he scored last season, 16 of them were against lower level opposition, by the way. He's got similar stats, but he scored a lot more goals.
But so there's a higher proportion of the footballing pyramid in the Premier League are going to be lower level opposition if you consider yourself a top 6 team.
You're going to play.
If you want to be in the top 6, you need to beat the top 6. You need to mix it with them.
Yeah, no, but listen,
you're making the argument, Stel. You're making the argument that he scores most of his goals against lower teams than our standard, but the majority of the teams that we play against are lower than our standard. If you're a top 6 team,
no, you've got the bottom. No. When I say hold on. When I say lower standard, I mean the bottom 10. I'm talking about the bottom 10 in the league. I split the league into two halves. The bottom 10 is the top 10.
The top 10 isn't necessarily the top 10 right now. It's like this. I mean, would you put? I don't know.
I think it's fair to say. I think it's fair to say, in general, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Brighton, Bournemouth, Spurs. These kind of teams are that top 10 group. I think it's fair to say, typically, they're the teams, all right? Look. If we've got to wait to the end of the season to have a debate about Tell, we'll do it. But for me, well done. You scored a goal against Leeds. Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, but doing it again, though, you're undermining the contribution because
what's he done?
I don't care whether you like him or not. I just don't understand why you want to undermine it. He's one of our own players. We want him to do better. Right? We want him to be good.
Right.
You should
that doesn't mean okay. Yes, Ben Davis, new contract. Yes, Reguilon might stay. Yay! They're one of our own. Yay!
He's 20 years
I
old.
want good players at Spurs. He's not. Yeah, but my opinion is he's not good enough. My opinion is for £40 million, for £30 million, for £25 million, we could have done much, much better than him.
And Stel, that's my whole point to all of this, right? That is my whole point to all of this. I get what Sean's saying, and if Sean likes him more than we do, I've got no problem with that. If we all like the same players, it'd be terrible, right? I get that. But my whole issue is
in him doing well. I want him to do well. I don't think other people do.
I understand. Hang on. Yeah, I get it. I don't disagree with you. We all want him to do well. Whether or not I want him to do well versus what I actually see are two very different things. But my big issue is exactly what Stel just said here, right? My big issue is that we should be buying better quality than that. That's my issue.
I agree with you.
I know you do. I know you do. Listen, I'll sit here right now, Sean, and say, if Tel Rodeba turn out to be absolutely brilliant and it's get rave reviews and they do it over, I don't mean one game. And by the way, this is where I disagree with Stel. I don't think it matters it is against Leeds because Leeds haven't lost at home for 14 months. So that's actually a really tough game, right? But I want to see players do it over a period of time consistently before I start saying, oh, green shoots.
Again, just to be entirely clear, Sal, and sorry, Johnny, I know you've been trying to come in for 10 minutes, mate. I'll shut up after this point.
That's right, don't worry.
I'm not saying for a second that we should be happy that Matisse, Tell and Odobert are starting. I take the point that we need better. I'm advocating that we sign better players. I also think it's a point to be made that they wouldn't be in the starting 11 had it not been for some crippling injuries to long-term injuries to players that were playing in those positions and a missed opportunity in the transfer window. My point is simply that I feel like some people, maybe you two would say it's not you two, but people in the fan base, I see it on Twitter all the time, their mind is made up on a 20-year-old, which is mind-boggling to me when you look at the 20-year-olds that used to be, that are now 26, that are world-class, that were nowhere at 20 years old. And it almost feels like they don't want these players to succeed because they'd rather be right than supporting what is right, which is the best interest. I'm not saying that about every 20-year-old, and I'm not saying that you're saying that necessarily, but there are an element of our fan base that would rather be right on their opinion on Tell and Odobert and players like them than supporting the players.
I'll happily be
We
wrong.
did this with Harry Winks, with Oliver Skip. We do this with all the time with young players. We do it all the time.
We do it all the time.
You can see if a player's a player.
Hang on, let me bloody speak a second, right? What I'm trying to say here is, it's nothing wrong with someone not rating a player, right? What I don't understand is this thing, right, of they don't want the player to become a good player. They've already written him off at 20 years of age.
I want him to be good.
Hang on a second, right? I've criticised Tell for being crap in games and being all over the place. I've made videos about him being crap. I've shown videos of him. But ultimately, I want Thomas Frank to work his magic on him and turn him into the player and use the attributes he undoubtedly has somewhere in that tank and make him a better player that is a player for Spurs, right?
Undoubtedly, according to who, though, Johnny? That's the difference.
Well, according
because
to what?
You've got a coach doesn't mean every single player.
No, I didn't say it does. But I'm not saying it does. But what I would say is, having seen Brian Mbuemo, Visser, right, Ivan Toney at Brentford, and what Thomas Frank has done with them over the period of time, I have hope and belief that he can make both Odobert and Tell better players. Whether or not they'll be championship players, they'll be unbelievable players, I don't know. But this incessant thing to write them off, and when they do something good, or they have a game where they're showing some signs, let's fucking embrace it.
That's my point. That's my point.
Let's not smash them down, right? You might be right, still. You might be right, Sam. They'll never make it. But this whole thing, right? He's had a good game. Well, it was shit, right? Like tonight, we joked backstage tonight. Odebert's come on and he played the mighty Estonia, right? He scored 2 goals and got an assist, right? Okay, yeah, let's knock it. Let's smock it. But between the two of them, they scored 3 goals and 3 assists. Now, confidence breeds confidence. Now, they might bring that back to Spurs.
Support is a catalyst.
And that is the catalyst and the mindset to get them on a more positive.
Yeah, hang on. We're missing some. Yeah, I get that. But the problem is,
they're going to be well beaters overnight.
Sure, I get that. But if we're going to apply that logic, right, to all football, then that means we're going to have to rate every single player that Spurs sign, right? At the end of the day, for me, if they both improve rapidly, if they both improve to the point where I go, God, they're really good, I'll hold my hands up and go, fair play to the lads. I didn't think they'd make it, right? But the thing is, to Stell's point just now, so I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, Stell, but how many players have we had this conversation about for the last 10, 20, 30 years where we're told, be patient, they're only 20, they're going to come good? Hardly any of them actually do. You get the rare ones that do. For me personally, and I think Stell feels the same, I just watch Tell. I don't see a really good footballer. I see a guy that seems like a nice lad. He works hard. He runs around a lot. But there's no standout quality to him where I go, there's something really good to work with in there. That's only my opinion from having watched him the last couple of years.
His players, though, are really done and dusted. I mean,
what's he good at? So
many players.
You've asked me this question about 100 times on your show, on my channel, and on this channel. I've given you a list of attributes that I rate him on, and you dismiss them all because you don't see them. I do. I think his first touch is very, very impressive. I think his work rate is very impressive. I think his IQ, his pass, his offlay, his connection, and his chemistry with other players has improved massively, and there's a lot to work on there. I used to think he had a pillow shot when I first saw him. Turns out that's not true at all. The amount of zip that was in that half foot raise shot against Leeds So there's obviously something to work in there. And when I've watched him for the France under-21 game, his ability to pick the ball up in the pocket outside the box and smash the ball top bins with both feet, not just in that game a couple of weeks ago, he did it last season as well, to me is, again, a good attribute that most 20-year-olds don't necessarily have or haven't honed in that art yet. He has got a lot of things to work. I'm with Johnny. There's a lot in the tank. It's about getting the best out of him. And one of the things, and I'm backing Johnny up on this one of the areas I think that you need from a player like that, who's someone who represents himself as I've got an unbreakable, undentable confidence. Those sorts of people generally are actually quite vulnerable. They're like Cadbury's cream eggs, hard on the outside, but really it's a soft center of insecurity. And I don't think that it helps having people going after him. He's a young guy. I'm sure he's on social media all the time, like most young people are. And I'm sure he's just aware of the fact that half the fan base have written him off. And again, still made the equivalent, the equivalency there of saying we should do that with, what about Richarlison? Richarlison's 27 years old and been to, I think, 2 World Cups. Right, there's a difference there. He's had
I agree with you on that point.
He should be slaughtered. Richarlison
is a baby. Same with Odegaard, and I just think that. Stell was making the point earlier. We should be giving time to Dane Scarlett, and I'm not going to sit there and say we shouldn't. But if he was making that argument, then where's the consistency?
Can I just say one
Dane Scarlett hasn't been.
Dane Scarlett's been on 4 different loan deals and got sent back from all of them, mate.
Can I just say, if all the time that I've been around football, like with agents and what have you, have been around football and hear about their players and how highly rated they are, right? And how they drop off of a cliff and go nowhere. And the ones who were, deemed maybe surplus to requirements, leave a club, go backwards before they come forward. Look at Eze, for example, right? Released by Millwall. My mate had to beg him to get to QPR, right? Old favours to get him into the club, right? And so what I'm saying here is, and then you have the players who promise so much, but piss all their talent away at a young age. They're, 23, they're smashing it. Look at Dele Alli. There's loads of them. Loads of them who have all given talent to piss it away. But we write them off so young now. Both we build players up, but we also are guilty of knocking them down.
Problem. Can I just come in here? Because I've not spoken on this. Number one, we all want Tell and Odegaard to do well. For me personally, I've seen more from Odegaard in flashes than I have previously from Tell. I said that I thought both of them had their best games at Leeds. You may say, well, the bar's not high. That's fair enough. But I thought there was enough there that there were some green shoots with both of them. I thought Odegaard's ball through to Doggy and the lovely little ball in that put Simmons in the second half at Leeds, I thought was delightful. You could see that he's starting to get confidence. Tell, I think, yes, it was deflected, but he got the ball, he made the run, picked up the ball, shifted it onto his right foot, shifted it again to make the extra space. And from what I've seen with Tell, and I have said this on our show before, that Tell for me before Leeds has been absolutely appalling for Spurs. But when I've seen flashes for him for the French under-21s, he's played well. So there is something there. There's something, and obviously as a Spurs fan, there's nothing we can do till January.
This is the thing. I hear football fans say this all the time when they want to big up a player. There's something there. I'll be honest, the list of attributes that Sean gave me, I don't see in him. Sean does, fair enough. That's just 2 different people having a different outlook on the same player. There's no problem there. But when we're saying we see something in him, I've seen a lot of games of Matisse Tell, and I have to come back to the scouting that I'm asking who decided that for 40, I know this isn't his fault, before you guys all have a go, I'm not saying it's his fault, but who decided that for 40 million, this was the best we could get around Europe? Like that's where I'm.
Question though, mate. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is there any leniency here given to the time to acclimate to a new country, a new culture, a new home, a new team, a new system, a new manager, all of those things? Look at Florian Wirtz, right? He came over, and I know Florian Wirtz is 3 times the player that Matisse Tell. I know we're going to go that path, but he has been appalling relative to the expectation of that price tag of him coming to Liverpool, and yet because Liverpool, until recently, until the last couple of games, got away with it with late winners and stuff, no one's really been talking about him. Recently they have, because all of a sudden his lack of contribution in those last couple of games has started to, and they've lost the games. People are starting to go now. Well,
Florian Wirtz, we're talking about Mateus Tel. We're talking about Tel.
No, I'm using it as a comparable that both of those players came across from German football. So I just think that there should be some sort of grace given to players who also move country and have to learn everything else.
I agree, but I'll tell you the difference. I agree with you, and I think people need time to acclimatise. Absolutely. But the difference is we're making out like we've never seen Mateus Tel play football before he was in the Premier League. And I said when we were linked with him...
You're making out like he was horrendous in Bayern, mate. He wasn't.
Hang on. You asked me a question. I'm trying to answer it, right? When I saw him play for Bayern Munich and we were linked with him, I was literally very consistent from the first. I don't want to sign this lad. I've seen him play. For me, I said, I don't think this improves Tottenham at all. For me, I think there's a lot better 19, 20-year-olds out there in the world of football that you could get a lot cheaper. Now, it doesn't mean he won't come good. That's great. And it might be one of those in 2 years, people want to go, gutted, you were wrong. He's brilliant. Fine. But for now, I just think like there were so many better players you could get at that age than this lad. So yes, acclimatising. Wirtz will be a top player for Liverpool. I've got no doubt. We've all seen him ripping up in the Champions League.
Yeah, he struggled thus far, right?
Yeah, but he has also only started 5 games in this country, right? So like
125 minutes, and I said it, Johnny. If you remember, Johnny, I said it on the channel that can't be named. I said I think that guy's going to really struggle. I think he's going to really struggle initially because there's a lot of pressure that comes with price tags that are above average, right? And at Mateus Tel level, 40 million quid, whether it's his fault and it isn't his fault, it's a millstone around their neck. By the way, I would like to remind everybody in the fan base who might be listening to this that, I mean, I don't remember Saba's personal take on January the 30th when we were first linked with Mateus Tel, but I do remember the general meltdown that happened when Mateus Tel was going to come to us. And then it looked like it was off and he was going to Manchester United. And the Levy out drums were banging then. And then when he came back, and then Man United he's not going to United, he's coming back to Tottenham. And you had the Mark Goldbridge meltdown. He's going to Tottenham. What are we doing there? That whole thing was like, and everyone felt that way. I remember Arsenal, AFTV saying, what are we doing letting Mateus Tel go to Tottenham Hotspur? Everybody in the fan base at the time thought it was going to be a worldie. And then Tottenham fans got excited until we found out that it was a loan deal and the option only stood when Mateus Tel said he wanted to stay. And then every Tottenham fan went, oh, he's only here just to kind of, to promote himself. He'll fuck off at the end of the season. So like the shift in the narrative and the kind of revisionism of 99% of the fan base that went into meltdown mode when we thought we weren't getting him, celebrated when we thought we were, then went into meltdown when we thought it was only an option pending his acceptance rather than our own. We all thought that this guy was using us as a stepping, like a launch pad.
I don't think,
and then they just written him off because he walked into an Ange Postecoglou system that the Premier League was completely written off by the performance of not just. He was the only player in those games, by the way, in the second half of the season that looked like he gave a shit. He looked like he gave a shit. Nobody else did in those Premier League games. I just feel like people have got incredibly short memories and they're 180ing their narrative to try to be right now. And I think it needs to be reminded because I remember it very, very well what happened in the end of January.
Who
what?
Who's got this opinion that you said? Because I definitely didn't have this opinion in any way, shape, or form.
Everybody.
Not everybody. There were loads in my chat that didn't want him, Sean. There were loads that didn't want him. Loads.
AFTV were going mental. United fan channels were going mental about letting him come to Tottenham. Everything I've just said was in my.
Sean,
go on.
Sean, right? When we signed Mateus, when we looked at Mateus Tel, my initial reaction was, "Who is he? Why are we spending money on another young player? I don't want him simply based on the fact I'm tired of young players. I want proven talent. For example, Kudus, Paulinho, get me players like that." Then when we signed him, there was a mini hysteria, you're right, from sections of our fan base and some other YouTube Spurs channels. And I sat there watching thinking, you're so desperate for signings that you're now going to make this sound as if this is so great when we know nothing about this player. It's ridiculous. He then came to Spurs and he was on loan for 4-5 months to the season ended. He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. I thought, what is the point of this loan deal? What absolute farce. We had 3 key injuries in the Europa Cup final. Maddison, Bergvall, and Kulu. He still couldn't start that game. I'm thinking, he's not very good, is he? We then sign him, and I'm thinking, why? Why are we doing this? And since we've signed him, with the exception of the Leeds game, he's done. The signing was done. The signing. Hear me out, Sean. Hear me out. Since we kept him, he's done nothing. Right now, if fans want to get on board with Tell and they want to think, he's going to come good. You wait and see. I'm cool with that. But for me, I will always support my team. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be truthful about what I think about him. He's done nothing for me to say, I want you at Spurs. If he one day proves it by being consistently good, creating, scoring, assisting on a regular basis, then I'll say, do you know what? I'm going to have to eat some serious humble pie here, and I'm going to get it from all of you guys, with the exception of probably Saba, because he's semi-agreeing with me on this. He's done nothing for me to say yay. Johnny, I hope he does well. I really do.
I'm not saying you might be right. You might be. Listen,
hold on. On a match day, I will support whoever's on the pitch. When I'm in the stands, I support whoever's on the pitch. But I just can't get on board with Project Tell because of one game against Leeds. Doesn't do it for me. I need to see a lot more than that. A lot more.
I feel a bit guilty, right? Because I've got to be honest, right? I put together a real damning video on Matthias Tell, right, of all his misses, right in front of goal.
You're the problem. You're the problem.
Oh, and then afterwards, I saw a lot of the comments in the video, and I thought to myself, you know what? I am part of the problem because all I'm doing is I'm highlighting his deficiencies. I'm not helping anything here. And maybe I shouldn't be doing that for a kid that's 20 years of age. It's all right to be doing it for a Richarlison or a 28-year-old, 29-year-old who's not producing it for the club. But for a 20-year-old, I felt like I was wrong. And all I'm saying is that you might well be right. Might be the same about Wilson Odobert. But, I didn't have that feeling about Lucas Bergvall. As soon as I saw Lucas Bergvall, first time I set eyes on him in pre-season against QPR, I stood up and I was going, oh, my God, this kid's unbelievable. Everyone calm down. But it's the same thing, overhype and underhype. I just think we should all want the players to do well regardless of our thoughts on them. And it's a difficult thing because we have our favourites. We can see the club isn't really where we feel it could be. But let's be honest, if one of those players turns out to end up having a good season, wow, we can all look back and say, you know what, we were all wrong.
The issue is we say this about Bergvall. Lubo says it about Gray. Every youngster we've signed is going to be really, really good because we've seen something. But none of them yet have shown me that they're at the level of being the pedigree needed to win league titles, to win Champions Leagues, to consistently win cups. None of them, including Bergvall. I think Bergvall's probably the most developed of them, of the ones we've signed, the youngsters.
Yes, 100%.
None of them have shown me that they can boss a game of football or have the kind of impact where you say, wow, this is the next Gareth Bale, this is the next Harry Kane, or this is another Maddison, or none of them yet have shown that to me.
But when you look at Harry Kane, when he was out on his loans, for example, all the abuse that Jamie Donnelly gets, look at him, he can't get a game, he's rubbish, he's not going to go anywhere. It's like the same with Mikey Moore, right? Mikey Moore, his stint at Rangers. Russell Martin is playing him in an 8. He's not an 8, right? And for Rangers fan, he's the easiest target in that team. Let's blame a kid who's just 18 for the downfall of Glasgow Rangers when you've got a shit manager. So all the media, all the hype, all the story, all the news is all focused on Mikey Moore being shit. When the truth of the matter is you've got a shit manager who's playing him in the wrong position. He then goes to play for the England under-19s he scores a hat trick. I'm not saying that makes him a fantastic player. He's going to do it. But what I'm saying is you have to get the context.
Change the environment, change the player sometimes.
Correct.
A lot of people are judging Matthias Tell on the 6 months that they saw under Ange Postecoglou, of which most of the games that he participated
everyone was
in
shit.
The league, and no one gave a shit, and everybody was shit, and he was one of the better players amongst a shit crew.
Everyone was shit. Our defense was shit.
But there's a bit of a difference here for me, because I don't go in on our youth, our own academy players. I think they're actually better than what a lot of fans give them credit for. But why I judge the youth differently is because none of our youth, none of them have been given the minutes at Spurs that the Odeberts, the Greys, the Bergvalls and the Tells have been given.
Right.
Give our youngsters those minutes and then we can judge at Spurs. The chance of that happening are probably zero, because we've signed all these other youngsters for silly money that aren't really at the level.
Would you give them the time?
This is why I judge Tell differently to the Mikey Moores, the Donnellys, etc.
But would you? Would you do that? Right. So, say for example, one of the players that's in the academy is Odebert and Stell right now, performing the way they are. What would your thing that these aren't good enough? We need to go and buy proper oven-ready players for these positions. You'd be saying,
like I said, no, hold on, no, because Odebert and Tell weren't really ripping up trees before they came to Spurs. They weren't exactly wow.
No,
I mean, look, our academy. Look, we can only judge the academy players at what they do at academy level, and at the academy level, they did really well. But none of them have been really given a proper crack at being a Spurs player for 2-3 months. Just give them those minutes, and then I can make a decision as a fan.
What's the reason why? Like, do you honestly think that the football club, who you have chastised for as long as I've known you, for not wanting to spend money, would rather go and spend money if they thought that the players in the youth system were good enough? None of the managers.
Hold on. My issue, Sean. 1 minute. My issue isn't about the money. My issue has been about there's no plan that makes any sense, where we spend the money we've got on good players. We've wasted the money we've had on silly players. I hear you on that. I think
Frank hasn't bedded any young players in, really, right? Ange Postecoglou gave some minutes to Mikey Moore, and let's be honest, he didn't grab the ball. He either didn't grab the ball by the horns, or he just wasn't good enough. He had a couple of one game, I think, against the team in, I forget who it was, AZ Alkmaar, was it? He was very good in Europe one game, right? But apart from that, didn't do too much. Sure. Jamie Donnelly never got a chance. Ash Phillips never got a chance.
This is what I said a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm saying, but it's not like at some point the manager sees these kids in training. He sees them. He brings them up. Every day you're hearing about this 16-year-old, this 18-year-old, whatever's getting brought up to the first team for training. At some point, you have to sit there and go, I understand the point you're making around, like, you won't know until you know. But at the same time,
the player pathway is broken. The player pathway is broken at Spurs. I've spoken about this many a time. It's broken.
Can I bring something up, lads? Right.
There's no clear pathway from academy to first team. It's broken.
That's the problem. What
does that even mean, though? What does that mean?
It means that if you're going to integrate young players into the first team and actually give them competitive minutes, you can't keep signing other players of a young age that are going to take places in the team unless you believe those young players you sign are the real deal and they're so far better than your academy players.
Still, this was going to be the point I bring up. This is where, for me, I think everyone wants everything. Everyone wants everything on the menu rather than what they like. And what I mean by that is we castrate the club for, these young players don't get a chance. The Donnellys, the Moores, the Dorringtons, whoever, from that youth lot. But you're right, Stel. If then the answer is we're then praising young players that we're bringing in front of them, like Bergvalls, Greys, Odebers, Yangs, Vuskovic, Tell, you can't have it always. There's no X amount of space in a football squad. Right. And this is my problem with it. If you want to give the youngsters from the academy a go, give the youngsters from the academy a go. And if they're not good enough, I think then you have more leniency when they come into the first team. So, for example, if Mikey Moore was playing right now instead of Tell or Odeber, I think there is more leniency because we're like, hang on, we didn't just go and spend 35, 40 million of our transfer fee on this kid to take the place of another kid, right? But the problem is what we're doing is we're buying Tells and Odebers, right? Players for me that I think this might be to your point a little bit still, players for me who aren't, wow, look how much better they are than some of the academy kids we already had. So let's pick a lane. We want the academy kids to come through.
I think that the setup, I don't think this problem is unique to Tottenham. Or maybe it is because of the unique situation in which Tottenham finds themselves in, where we're starved of success. We used to have a big reputation for winning cups and doing well in those tournaments. We were knocking on the door for, Champions League every season for the last 15 years, but not quite getting through it. The teams that have the luxury of bedding in the likes of Conor Bradley at Liverpool, for example, those sorts of players, they would bring them on for 20 minutes here and there when they're 3-0 up in games. For the last 2 or 3 years, Tottenham have rarely been in situations where we've been dominating, where you can bring players on. And because of the pressures under the manager, you look at Ange Postecoglou, he was fighting for his life. It ended up, even despite winning the trophy, it cost him his job anyway because of his poor performances. He doesn't give a hoot. He said about the players that we signed. Archie Gray, I think he was talking about. He said, I can't wait to see this. I can't believe what an unbelievable player he's going to be in 2-3 years' time. And I just hope that I'm the lucky guy that's going to be able to continue to inherit that, or the next guy will be such a lucky guy. I always said that Ange was the guy before the guy because of that shift towards a youth-centric approach that hadn't yet matured. 1 second. But for me, I feel like it's a difficult scenario with the pressures and the timelines that managers are given in the Premier League. At the end of the day, it's a results business. And are you really going to have, and are the fans, as much as it might sound, romantic to sit there and say, yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll give Mikey Moore, a run of 12 games, regardless of how he plays, to see if it lands. At the end of the day, if we lose games because of his mistakes or because of his lack of contribution, are the fans, they might not turn on Mikey Moore, but they'll turn on someone. It'll be the manager, it will be the recruitment team, it will be on the owner, it will be on someone.
My point was more to the fact that if you look at our squad right now, right? If you are buying Bergvall and Sarr and Gray, 3 very young midfielders, and you're buying a young Vuskovic, and you're buying a young Odeber and a young Tell, right? Then when you got people then going, well, hang on, Jamie Donnelly isn't being given a chance in the first team, and Mikey Moore isn't being given a game in the first team, and Dorrington, well, sure, because you've bought young players in front of them. Surely we'll be better off letting those youngsters try and develop through and make the actual signings, quality signings. And that's where I have an issue with it, Sean. That's my issue with it. Let me just finish on this and I'll come over to you, right? This is my problem with it. We sit there and it's Donnelly needs minutes, but Moore should be getting minutes, and Scarlett, and sure, we'll stop buying young players in front of them then. Because if you stockpile, you've got loads of academy kids, then you're buying loads of young players in front of them. First of all, it makes your squad very young and inexperienced. And second of all, you are blocking, to Stell's point, you are blocking the pathway to the first team, because rather than, I'm not saying I rate him, but rather than Dane Scarlett, an academy product who costs nothing, getting minutes in the first team against Leeds, what we've done is we've paid 40 million and Tell's got those minutes in front of him. Now, this isn't about Tell v Scarlett, but you get my point, right? We've bought the young player in front of our already young player. And I just think there's too much youth. There's too much youth there.
Do we not think, just doing a quick overview on this, because I'm, me, I think Donnelly, personally, I think should be given a chance. Mikey Moore, I think he's 18. I think maybe next year, hopefully, he will be in a position to be given a chance. Gray, I think, will come through, but I think we went too far down the route of kids. For me, I wouldn't have bought Kinski, because if you've got a keeper like Gunter or Keeley, then why buy Kinski? If you've got Mikey Moore coming through and Sonny was there to help him, then why bring in an Odeberg or a Tell? But then
and look at it,
isn't this the same as Gray, Lubo?
And Yang.
When you've already got Bergvall and Sarr as young players, and then you've got people behind them like Abbott, like Hall.
Yeah,
well, maybe this is what the loan system is there to do, and these kids need to realise it's a cutthroat business. And when you go on loan, you take the chance. You grab the ball by the horns. And Ben Scarlett's had 4 or 5 different failed loan opportunities. I'm not writing him off as a footballer, but like at the end of the day, you can't really make a legitimate argument, in my opinion, saying let's give the guy first team minutes in the Premier League when he's failed at League 2, League 1, and the Championship. I don't know what we're supposed to do here. Like, this is what the loan system's supposed to be there to do. If you go out there, you've got to treat that like it's your own, moment in the spotlight. And most of these players, until this season, haven't really done it. They haven't done it.
Harry Kane wasn't good on loan. He didn't really have a good loan experience.
But Harry Kane wasn't good at 20 either. So if you'd seen Harry Kane, if we're going to use Harry Kane as the anomaly or the exception to the rule, whatever, then back to the point, right? You're writing players off. You would have written Harry Kane off as well.
I think what happened.
I would have given Harry Kane minutes in the first team at Spurs, is my argument, Sean. Until they get minutes in our first team to really assess, can you make the leap from academy to men's football at Spurs?
How can you justify giving minutes to players in the first team at Spurs when they have failed, when they're on loan at different and lower standards?
The same way we justify spending £40 million on a player that does fuck all.
He doesn't do fuck all. It's only in your opinion he does fuck all.
Well, what's Matthias Tel done, Sean? Come on, man. What's he really done at Spurs so far? What's he really done?
We spent 45 minutes talking about Matthias Tel. We're talking about the youth system here.
Exactly. Right? He's done very little. He's done nothing.
What's happened, guys? What's happened here is that we went too far in. We bought too many kids. I agree. If you've got good scouting that picks up a Vuskovic, who apart from getting a severe education in his first game by Harry Kane, has been absolutely smashing it up in the Bundesliga. It was Young Player of the Month, I think, there for the whole league. You got someone like Bergvall, who you can see has got absolute quality. You've got to pick up these players. What I don't agree with is getting a Tell or an Odebear when you've got a Mikey Moore. Getting a Kinski when you've got a Gunter and a Keeley. I think it went too much the other way, and I think we suffered because we got rid of, going back to the transfer policy under Ange, we got rid of too many established players and we brought in too many young players. So and it went the other way. It went the other way.
Do you know, Lubo?
Not the only clubs who've done that though, Lubo, right? Lots like Manchester City, Chelsea, the vast majority of the players that they buy are under the age of 20. In fact, we've seen the story. What's his name? The football finance guy, not Kieran Maguire, the other guy, Stefan Borson. He did a report on this on TalkSport, saying I've used it many times in my videos. That basically the days of paying 60, 70, 80 million pound for 27-year-olds is over because the market has shifted its focus. And I've said it. Now you have everyone fishing in a smaller pond, big fishing rods in there. You end up with an over demand and an undersupply for talent. So everyone's gobbling up any 18-year-olds that are half decent, and in the end, paying over the top for most of them. Yeah, but it's just the way that the game has moved. That's not a Tottenham specific problem. That's a footballing thing at the moment. That's a thing.
No, I just think we went over the top with kids during Ange's periods, and we didn't buy enough established players, and hence we suffered very badly for the best part of the last 2 years. And the results were there. Yes, we won a European trophy. That was fantastic. We got there playing a completely different way than Ange has lived his life coaching. We got there. It doesn't matter how. But in terms of sustainability and in terms of taking the team forwards, that was the reason Ange had to go. And now thankfully we've got a coach. And so this comes back to the kids. I think if we've got the kids are with us now, they're with us whether we like it or not. And I think that forget the kids that are on loan because they're on loan now for the season. But looking at the players we've got now for the next few months anyway, till January, I think if anybody can get the best out of players like Tell and Odebear, then you've got a great coach like Frank, and I'm sure he will improve them as much as he can. So, for me...
No one complained, though, Lubo. No one complained when we were signing Papa Sarr as a kid, an 18-year-old kid.
No.
We signed Destiny Udogie as a kid, or we signed Vuskovic as a kid. I think it's the quality of those kids that we're signing. I mean, we're buying them at the moment. We've been buying them. Yeah, no, the volume. I mean, listen, we've been buying kids like Oliver Boast, right? We've been buying... club players.
I question Pape Sarr. I didn't
Pardon?
know why I thought I questioned Papeso. I was like,
I well, from what I heard, he was.
He's all
But
right.
my point is, at
All
that
right.
time, though, at that time, he would have been listed along with the waste of money signings that we've already wasted our money on. You know, people were questioning, why have you spent the record amount on a 16-year-old centre back called Vuskovic? Why did Fabio spend that money on him? That could turn out to be another masterstroke. We don't know.
Oh.
Could be.
Sure, but it's always.
Do you know,
Can I just say, sorry, just really quickly, but the thing is, I get that we all want to do that game. Like I can see people in the chat saying things like, "Oh, if Stell and Sava had written off every player, they wouldn't rate this player that's come good now." The problem is, some of these players will come good, some of them won't. But I'm trying to talk about what about now? Can we at some point do something for now? At some point, can we stop buying Odebers and Tells and Greys and go,
you need both.
Let's buy for now? Because if you don't, you are not going to be that top club. And
can you have both though, Stel? Can you not have both?
Yeah, but Johnny, and we have, right? How much youth have we got? We could sit here right now and go through all the players on loan and all the young players in this squad, right? Surely we can all agree to wrap this section up, guys, because we need to move on to the last section. Surely can we all agree, though, that moving forward now, unless the young players we bring in are going to be absolute worldies, we don't need any more 18, 19-year-olds coming in windows. You know, unless you're going to get someone who's fully established, played for 2-3 years.
And yet this week we're heavily linked with about 4 17, 18-year-olds out of Brazil.
17-year-old centre-back. Yeah.
You know what? Can I let me share?
We're linked with Rayan. We're linked with this other kid. Like it's never ended.
Titty Tatty, whatever his name is, Titty Tatty.
Johnny, do you not think?
Imagine that in the back of your kit, Titty Tatty.
Still, we've got the kids. Do you know we've got the kids? We've got Williams Barnett, we've got Byfield, we've got Thompson, we've got these kids.
Williams Barnett isn't going to get a look in. Luke,
we don't need any more.
We don't
need any more. We're done.
Can I tell you a very quick story? Because I think this is happening at Spurs. So a very long time ago, I was at St George's Park and I was sitting on a table with the late Ray Wilkins. For those of you that don't know who Ray Wilkins is in the chat, in case you're young, his football brain's brilliant. Great man to talk about football. And he told us a story where when Abramovich came into Chelsea, Ray Wilkins, an ex-Chelsea player, Abramovich asked the people that run the football, why have we got an academy? I don't understand. They said, oh, it's to develop young players and get them into the first. And they said, but I can just buy whoever you want. He goes, what's the point? And they couldn't justify it to him because he said his answer to everything was, I can buy it. So he told them, shut it down. Shut down the academy. It's a waste of resources. They literally had to convince him it would be a PR disaster and it would make Chelsea look so bad in the eyes of football to not develop any youngsters, have no community projects. On that basis, they kept the academy running. And they turned the academy into a business. Let's just hoard loads of players, stop the other clubs getting them, put them out on loan and make revenue and sell them off. He turned the academy into a business. I fear Spurs has become that now, where the academy, which generated 25% of the money for the deposit for the stadium, is now just a business arm of Tottenham where let's develop youngsters and hopefully we can sell enough of them to use that money to buy players that are already made for the first team. Right, but Sean, okay, so...
There's nothing wrong with that. No. Successful.
Let me finish. There's nothing wrong with that. But for football fans, you want to see your academy develop players for your team.
Yeah, but how many do you expect? We had this conversation before. Like, for every 25 players that come through the under-21s, how many of them do you actually think will make it into the first team?
Well, the way we're running, none. No, I don't expect any academy. In an ideal world, I think at least one player per year should break into that 25-man squad. Ideally, at least one.
Yeah, I think on a yearly basis, I think you have to sort of make it on a generation, like a 5-year span or something. I reckon if 2 players break through every 5 years and 10 players get sold for more than 3 or 4 million quid, it pays for itself. It keeps like it's like putting a load of gold like pay dirt.
But why are you paying for it? Why are you paying for the academy that doesn't develop players for the first team?
Because
What's the
if
point?
two of them break through, and then
But
you
none
get
are. For sure, none are breaking through.
at the moment.
When's the last academy player? When's the last
They're not
academy
breaking
player?
through because they've got players that have been bought in front of them that are also kids.
Right. So this is the
You
point.
can't have all ways. This is my point. You can't.
Our
you can't
academy.
hang on. You can't want to see Bergvall, Sarr, Gray, Odegaard, Tell, Vuskovic, and then in the same breath go, well, we also want to see Luca Williams, Barnett, Jamie Donnelly, Mikey Moore. There is X
and also Kudus and also Semenyo and
right.
also someone else.
You've got a squad of 25. And my point on this is I always, whenever I talk about youth football, people are like, oh, Sam, I don't like any of the youth. No, that's fine. If we're going to do what's just been explained there, if we're going to do like what Chelsea have done, if you're going to go and buy kids and the aim is, if one of them is brilliant and makes it like if Esteval makes it as a superstar, he makes it as a superstar. All the others, they'll just get them in and within 18 months, they've moved them on for more money. Fine, do that. But the problem I have is that I'm told every single season, Savvy, you write off all the youngsters. I'm still waiting to see in the last 5-10 years, who have I actually been wrong about when having this conversation? I'm always told you write them off. Who in the last 5-10 years, right? Not Harry Kane. We know he's the anomaly. Who in the last 5-10 years has come through and is now playing at a better club than Tottenham or is still in our first team right now? Who?
Probably McQuaid.
Madueke.
Okay, Madueke. Okay, Madueke.
That's it.
Right. And there goes my point, right? We have this conversation every year about youngsters and this player's going to come good and give this player time. He's only 19. He's only 20. You would write them off. You're writing them off. It's too early. I'm still waiting to be proved wrong.
You know the problem, Sav. The problem is
they're either good enough or they're not.
No, you take Harry Kane. Kane came in. Yes, he's an anomaly. Yes, he is world class. But you look at the money we've spent trying to replace him. We've spent 105 million on Richarlison and Solanke. We bought Kyle Walker as a kid for 5 million. And how much have we spent trying to replace him? Aurier, Trippier was small. Emerson. I mean, then Porro. We spent something like 120 million replacing Walker. So if you've got a top kid, give them a chance to come through, because no club can afford to waste 105 million on Richarlison and Solanke. I don't care who it is, because players go for big money. So before you start spending that massive money, if you've got a real talent in coming through the academy, give them a chance. Give them a few games.
Lubo, I don't disagree with you, but Lubo, to your point, see, this is where I've always said to you, you want to have your cake and eat it. You're telling me if you've got these really good kids coming through the academy, but then we wax lyrical about buying the kids in front of them that take their place.
Sava, can I answer your question?
About Bergvall, about Sarr, about Gray. What about all the young centre mids that are 18, 19 that are currently out on loan? They don't stand a chance.
Sava, can I answer your question about this? You never know, and unless a kid is phenomenal for their age, like Wayne Rooney was, this or Yamal at Barca, right? You know,
the generational one, proper generation.
Yeah, the one in a million. You don't know if and this goes for every club, not just Spurs. You don't know if an academy player is good enough, genuinely good enough, even if they're brilliant at academy level, like Mikey Moore was, like Williams Barnett is. You never know until you give them that chance and you give them those minutes. And this is the issue. We don't do that bit. Because we don't do that bit, we end up arguing about them all every single week. And that's the issue.
Let me ask you, Sel, right now.
You don't know the answer until... go on.
For the amount, I agree with you, but right now, what's the difference, right? For the amount of minutes that an Archie Gray is getting, we might as well have kept Abbott, right? We might as well have kept Abbott.
I agree.
3 million, and Abbott could be playing every 3 games, 20 minutes. This is my point. And this is why, when it goes back to, we aren't Man City or Chelsea in the way that we spend money. And this is what frustrates me still, is that when I'm seeing all this money being pumped into these kids who are still hit and miss, if we're going to go down this route of hit or miss and talking about, well, they're only 20, do it with our own kids. If you've got an outlier, if you've got one that turns out to be a maverick, like I don't know if he is, but Vuskovic, just for example, just by way of example, right? If Vuskovic turns out to be this world-class centre-back and we've got him for that young, for that cheap, that young, brilliant, fine. But the problem is we're just buying bulk young players. And
do you know what I think?
Those young players getting a chance, we can't complain about both. We can't have it always. That's been my point for years. You can't have your cake and eat it. Pick a lane.
Do you not think, though, that after all this time, do you think we are the victims of, I don't like to go on about it, a manager who in 2 years didn't improve one single player that came into the team? And we've got into this sort of rut and sort of dismissed the opportunity that with a top coach, some of these said players who went backwards in some cases could in fact start to move forward, and we might see progression in some of the youngsters who have maybe stagnated. I'm not saying it's true, but is that not possible?
Johnny, I think the problem lies at the top. The problem lies at the top because
not the training pitch. It doesn't.
Well, I tell you what lies at the top. First of all, you need a board that's going to have the balls to sustain a number of losses whilst these kids bed in and find their feet.
We had 22 losses. We backed the manager. My point is,
Johnny,
anyone in 2 years.
Johnny, but I'm talking about I'm talking about bringing through youngsters. Okay, we also need a fan base that if we lose 3 games in a row because Mikey Moore, Donnelly, and Vuskovic are playing, the fan base isn't going to fucking go into meltdown and go to war. And this is why the board has to be the first piece that says we are going to bring through the youngsters. There are going to be some difficult periods. Yeah. You need to get behind it, and then we need a manager that doesn't feel his job's under threat by missing out on Europe because he's doing this. There's so many things that need to happen. I don't know if the manager is going to get the backing, whether the board have got the balls, and whether the fans genuinely back their chat.
Let's move on, guys. Let's move on. Let me do some super chats, and then we've got the last sort of 13, 14 minutes. We're going to talk about Vicario. We'll save Villa for Thursday, boys. Big up to George. Always very generous in my channel and over here as well. So big up to you, George, and one of our mods. So thank you very much for all your hard work, my man. Appreciate you. Big up to Pablo Davo. Said, as always, great show, boys. Much respect to all. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you. Thank you, Pablo Davo. Big up to Mark Taylor. How you doing, man? Said, tell against Doncaster. Mic drop. Wasn't his best game, but look, he did do better against Leeds, and let's see what he does moving forward. But big up to you, Mark. Appreciate that. And Della Spurs said, if we believe in Tell so much, why don't we put him on loan back in Germany like Bayern would? We can give him a loan season so we can give him time. Listen, I feel like this for a lot of, it's only my personal opinion, not the opinion of the Spurs 5. My personal opinion is I think there's a lot of these young players that we sign that we should be sending back out on loan to prove themselves. But that's just me. That's only me. But big up to you. Thank you very much for that. Guys, we went a bit over on that topic. So for the last sort of 12 minutes or so, I know that somebody wanted Vicario to be a talking point this week. He's come into a lot of stick this season, would be fair to say. I think, Johnny, I'm going to start with you, Johnny, because I think you've given me the most acknowledgement here with this subject. Vicario, what did you want to talk about with...
Look... He's one that's really dividing people at the moment. I don't think there's any doubt that as a shot stopper, he's been very good. The stats seem to show that. But has he really improved the weak elements of his game over the last 2 years? I don't personally think he has. His crosses, balls into the box from free kicks, we saw against Leeds. We got the sublime and the ridiculous. We got the ridiculous of him parrying the ball into the path of the player when he maybe could have caught it or pushed it way wide. Missing a cross as the ball came into the box completely. And then you go up in the second half, and what was he doing? Made 2 absolutely top-class saves. Is there better keepers out there? Should we be dismissing these errors that he's making? I mean, the one positive maybe is the fact that Thomas Frank has at certain times asked him to play the ball long. But what we have seen, what we saw at Leeds, when we were under pressure, those last 10 minutes, picking up the ball and aimlessly kicking it straight back to the opposition, not even looking where the ball was going, not even trying to retain possession. And as a guy who's meant to be part of the leadership group, it's all very well shouting and screaming at those in front of you, but you have to hold your hand up and accept responsibility when you yourself are the one that's making the mistakes. I like Vicario. I just question whether or not he has all the attributes to sustain a long career at Tottenham Hotspur, and he's not a position which can be improved. And I had that conversation, and then a few days later, we were linked. Well, not linked, but there was talk about us looking for a new goalkeeper. Is that realistic? Is that fair, or are we looking too much into it? Is my question.
Tough one, isn't it? I've been very pro Vicario. I was sort of watching it at Leeds, and I was sort of thinking, Jesus, this is like, you've had, for me, with shot stopping, he's up there with the best. But then you've had the shot where he got his feet wrong against Brighton, the ball that he parried out onto Paulinho for Wolves, and the goal at Leeds. And that's very unlike Vicario, because that is his strength. The cross that he missed, that he completely misjudged where Rodon hit the post. Personally, for me, I'm sort of looking at it and I'm thinking, right, if we're gonna improve and we want to be a team that's going to challenge in the top 3, the way that Poch did for 2 or 3 seasons, then personally I'd go and buy someone like Mike Mannion, and then you've got a top goalkeeper. For me, you've got to go if you're going to buy. I was looking at reports about the best transfer in the summer window, and the only transfer that I can think that is on a par with Kudus is Donnarumma, who I think was the most amazing buy for Man City. And if they win the league, I think he will probably be one of the main reasons. And I think I think in terms of putting right certain areas we need to improve at the moment. I don't think Vicario is in the top 3, but I think if Frank can't improve certain areas of a game, then I am sort of tending to think, yes, listen, if you can go out and get one of the best, for me, Mannion's one of the best 2 or 3 keepers around, and if you can get one of the top 2 or 3 keepers, then definitely, I've been used to watching Jennings and Clements for many, many years, and Pete Lloris for many years. And so for me, I've been used to seeing top quality keepers.
Does he worry you on the feet, Lubo? For me, when I sit down, no matter where I sit, whether it's in the east stand or the south stand, when the ball comes to his feet, you hear the fans going, "Get rid of it! Get rid of it!" Like what? There's the tension.
The worry I have, Johnny, the thing I have, and I'm called a dinosaur because I've not come up to date, and I like old school goalkeepers. You've got you've got a goalkeeper that can use his hands, and you've got 10 outfield players who can't use their hands that are much better with their feet. And we are expecting all of a sudden, because Pep chucked out Joe Hart and brought in, I can't think, who was the keeper he replaced Hart with?
Edison. You talking about?
Was it no? He when did he chuck
Claudio Bravo to begin with?
Was it Bravo? Because of that, we are now expecting all our goalkeepers to suddenly acquire skills that our players have been learning for many, many years. And when you look at how many goals, how many chances are created because of chaos at the back caused by goalkeepers passing out. Just watch it. I mean, I watch Match of the Day 2. I watch the Football League, watch European games. There are so many goals that are given away because of this playing out from the back by goalkeepers. You know, hit it long for a target man to, you know, get the ball out.
Why does Pep take the blame for everything in football? Like every team that doesn't pass well, oh, it's Pep's fault and Pep's goalkeeper.
Well, do you know what it is? Do you know what it is, Sav? I think it's great if you can get a keeper with those skills.
Yeah.
Then it's absolutely fantastic. You've got 11 players who can play with their feet instead of 10, which is a plus. But not many goalkeepers are that good. And Vicario, you know, for me, his short-term passing has been good in terms of accuracy. Where he gets it wrong sometimes are decision-making in terms of making that pass when he should be putting it long. And Vicario's like a lot of other keepers. He's very, very good at doing what he's there to do, which is make saves. And the best keepers make more saves than the worst keepers. And I'd like to think, you know, you look at our record, we've conceded 5 goals in 7 league games. So it can't be too bad. You know,
Can I throw something at you though, Lubo? Isn't it? See, like, I always hear this about Vicario, that it's with his feet. Now, I don't think he's good with his feet, but I don't think that's the main issue. My main issue is, one, I don't think he gives confidence to his back four at all. I think he causes a lot of panic in our own box. Yeah. And 2, for somebody that we're saying is very good with his hands, I think this is his biggest weakness, not shot stopping. Yeah, he's made some mistakes. Every keeper does. For me, I've said this so many times. When the free kicks come in, when the corners come in, when the long throws come in, this is a guy that never comes out and goes, mine. Boom. I'm taking everyone with me. I'm clearing the ball. It's very... When he does, he usually fumbles it. Yeah, it's very powder puff. If he does punch it, it's like a weak punch. If he does save, it normally drops sort of in and around the danger zone. I think he's a good shot stopper that doesn't instill confidence. When I look at how goalkeepers like Schmeichel, Van der Sar, when you look at Alisson, these guys come out, dominate, and they boom, and they punch everything clear. That is the thing for me with Vicario. But as I've said, this isn't like, oh my God, if we don't sell this guy immediately, we're in trouble.
No, but you can improve him, right? Europa League final, completely missed the ball. Mickey van der Ven got that.
Hang on, Johnny, stop. Basuma clattered him. Basuma clattered Vicario.
We've seen it, but
I've seen that many times. That was the only time.
I know, but Basuma's not playing at the moment, and Sava's 100% right. And you said it yourself against Leeds. You were there last Saturday. He came out for that ball, and he was miles away from it. Yeah, miles away. And it's happening.
Is that the header from Rodon?
Yeah, Rodon.
Oh, yeah. He's in no man's land. He doesn't come on.
No man's.
He was like that against Brighton. The goal against Wolves. Let's be fair. Right. For as bad as we were against Wolves offered nothing. Like, let's be brutally honest. We weren't good v Wolves, but Wolves didn't look like scoring in a million years. And then Vicario gifts them one. And it's like, you know, but I don't know. He's okay. I just think he's a 6 out of 10 goalkeeper. I think he's all right. Sorry if that's harsh. I just don't think... I've said this before and people get annoyed with me. I put him in exactly the same bracket as a lot of the Premier League goalkeepers that no one would want to sign. And I mean no one, like us. I put him in the bracket with Leno. I put him in the bracket with Pope. I put him in the bracket with Pickford. I put him in that bracket with...
I'll take Pickford all day long over Vicario. All day and twice on Sundays.
You know what I mean?
Raya's miles better than us. The Raya argument... You know, where we did better than buying Vicario. That ship has long sailed. Long sailed.
Thing about Vicario is, for me, he's got a massive vulnerability in his confidence. And when it goes in games, he shits himself. And I don't think that's something you can teach. I don't think you can train that out of a player. Like you can train, you might be able to train him to have more confidence claiming the ball. But when the pressure's on him, when people were doing the high press from goal kicks, and we still 2 years of doing this bollocks where we play it around from the back from a short goal kick, it always ends up causing more problems than it's worth. He doesn't look confident. He looks like and then the sliced clearances we saw against Leeds. All of these things to me stem from a guy that
Yeah, Bodo. Yeah,
confidence every other game. And you need the number one thing outside of being a good shot stopper that a goalkeeper needs, and I completely agree with Sava, is solidarity, confidence, calm presence, because it bleeds. It's infectious. Whatever he's presenting to the rest of his team from corner kicks and that, it infects the rest of the players around him. As Lubo, you said we've only conceded 5 goals in 7 games. I would make the argument that that's largely because of the defensive solidarity that we've had. I know we've got to finish, Sava, so I'll let you go.
Yeah, sorry, Stel, you wanted 10 seconds. You got like 10. Got to be before 2 hours. You got 30 seconds.
I like Vicario. He's a good goalkeeper, but we can do better. We can sign better than Vicario.
Agreed.
Love it. Big up, everyone. Thank you very much. I am going to redirect you right now over to Deji. No doubt he's telling everyone we're winning the league. Get over there. Please say the Spurs 5 raid. Much love. See you Thursday night. Thank you, Sean, Johnny, Stel, me, and Lubo. Much love. Take care. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
you Spurs.